Let's talk about market analysis, the bigger picture. What am I looking at every morning before I start getting into trades and the overall thought process in the morning? Before I start trading, what is my focus? The first thing I want to do is find out if there's any major news events. And I'm talking about data that's coming out that will make the market move based on inflation or job reports or just really any type of major news. And that normally happens every morning. There's some type of news, maybe not every morning actually. That's why we check the news. But for example, July 3rd, we can see there was some 7 o'clock news, 7:30 news, 8:15 news, 8:30 news, initial jobless claims. This is on the Only Prop Firm's website, the economic calendar. Now, I normally start trading around 9 a.m., 10 o'clock, that area. So I want to focus on news that is going to move the market in the future, obviously. So if I'm starting to trade at 9 a.m., I don't really need to worry about the 8:30 news, but I can see that, hey, there was some 8:30 news. I can look at the chart, see how it affected the price action, but I really want to focus on like what's next. That way, I'm aware that there is some data coming out. There's some news. I'm not holding through the news events, because the problem with the news is it's really hard to know exactly if the market's going to go up, if it's going to go down. News comes out, the market makes a big move, gets very volatile. Liquidity starts to get crazy. You get a big fake out possibly. So we want to be aware of, if there is news coming out, how do I react to it? Is this something that I can take an actionable trade on, or should I be patient? I would say the majority of the time, the best thing to do is be patient, right? You have 9:45 news and then 10 o'clock news, and they're decent numbers. So we expect to get a little bit of volatility, the market to go up, down, maybe chop around, maybe go crazy for a minute and then kind of flatten off. And then we look for our trade opportunities. So we want to know if there's anything big coming out. We're checking the economic calendar every morning. Like I said, just check this every morning before you start trading. Find out, is there news coming out? When's the big news of the day? And if there isn't any news, well, that might be a bad thing too, because when there is zero news, that can lead the market to either just kind of chopping, going sideways, or just not really having like strong, powerful moves in either direction, because there's nothing really driving the market. Whereas when we get a big news event, the market's bullish, it's starting to push, you can feel more confident because you're like, hey, the news came out, the market made a big bullish move, it's starting to break out. Like, this is an opportunity because I see that the market is trending in that direction. The overall bigger picture is moving in that direction. So another thing I want to focus on too is just going on the bigger time frames. We always want to start out higher time frames. When it comes to market analysis, I want to start out always on the bigger time frames. It's not rocket science, right? We want to see, what is the market doing? What is the trend doing? So I'm looking right now at the daily chart. I know there was some news, July 3rd, some news is coming out there. I see where we're at. Okay, hey, we're pushing. I just want to be aware of that. I want to look at the bigger time frames, be aware of anything major. Is there any previous resistance that we're pushing up into? Is there anything that we're looking at here? We just want to kind of be like, okay, I'm looking at the daily chart. All right, now we got this push. Okay, the market's been pushing. Just want to be aware of that. We want to kind of have an idea of what the market's been doing. Obviously, if you're trading every day, you probably know what it's doing, but it's good to kind of refresh every morning. Take a look at the chart, take a look at the news, focus on the bigger picture, start to see like, hey, what is the overall trend? It looks like we've only been going higher and higher. Okay, cool. Like, now I see that. Now let's be aware of that. Are we pushing? Are we moving? So we'll talk a lot more about kind of how to analyze this, but this is kind of my overall higher level every morning. What am I looking at? The news, the different patterns, and kind of seeing what the market is doing before I start trading. Because the more that I'm prepared, the longer that I kind of take to prepare myself and really kind of focus, look at the levels, draw out recent levels, draw out the tops, the bottoms, seeing what's going on the previous days. The more that I can do that, the more I can prepare for the market to give me a setup, the better. Because when that setup arrives and I see something happening in the market, I'm like, hey, I know. I know there was some news came out. Okay, I'm prepared for that. The last thing you want to do is get surprised by the news, because you're like, whoa, I didn't know there was going to be 9:45 news. Well, you should have known, because number one, you should have checked it. Number one, you should have checked the news every morning. Look at the bigger picture. And just be aware. I would say the number one reason that most traders fail or lose is because they don't have a process. So this is my process. Every morning, seeing what the news is, looking at the bigger picture, trying to like get into it slowly, kind of just waiting. You know, I'm not like overly eager to put a trade on right away. I'd rather be less eager, right? I'd rather be like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for the perfect setup. Not always the perfect setup's going to form, but the more that you can force yourself to kind of stick to the process, stick to the plan, the better you're going to be consistently, right? You've got to find that kind of process, that plan. And we're going to talk a lot about the process and the plan as we continue through these chapters. But every morning, the routine, very simple, looking at the news, looking at the overall bigger picture, and then starting to formulate my plans. Going from the daily chart, zooming into the hourly chart, starting to zoom in, starting to get a little closer, starting to look at the price action, seeing what's going on, starting to be like, okay, there's 9:45 news, 10 a.m. news. All right, I'm prepared. I am ready. There's nothing wrong with being patient. If you want to get paid as a day trader, you got to be patient. It's that simple.